Good morning, Bethel. Welcome to another day of the Daily Thoughts. We have been going through the book of Acts as a church together, and we are really close to the end. I think this is my last day in the book of Acts with you since we've started. So I think we started the book of Acts in around October, and now we are hitting February, and we are in the second last chapter of Acts. So I have the pleasure of reading from Acts 27, verses 13 to 26. So a bit of context of what has gone on previously, and if you had heard Jackie yesterday, you would have heard her talking about it. But basically, Paul goes on a trip to Rome. He sails to Rome, but he tells the people that they shouldn't travel because things are not looking good. Like, they're probably gonna come up against a lot of storm and a lot of um struggling water. So the journey was not gonna be very pleasant. And Paul told them not to travel because of this. Yet they didn't listen to Paul, and we see then, which I'm going to read, what happens to the men and what happens to Paul during their journey to Rome. So I'm reading Acts 27, verses 13 to 26. It says, when a gentle south wind began to blow, they saw their opportunity. So they weighed an anchor and sailed along the shore of Crete. Before very long, a wind of hurricane force called the North Easter swept down from the island. The ship was caught by the storm and could not head into the wind, so we gave way to it and were driven along. As we passed to the lee of a small island called Quada, we were hardly able to make the lifeboat secure, so the men hoisted it aboard. Then they passed ropes under the ship itself to hold it together, because they were afraid they would run aground on the sandbars of Citus. Some great names here. They lowered the sea anchor and let the ship be driven along. We took such a violent battering from the storm that the next day they began to throw the cargo overboard. On the third day, they threw the ship's tackle overboard with their hands. When neither sun nor stars appeared for many days and the storm continued raging, we finally gave up all hope of being saved. After they had gone a long time without food, Paul stood up before them and said, men, you should have taken my advice not to sail from Crete. Then you would have spared yourselves this damage and loss. But now I urge you to keep your courage, because not one of you will be lost, only the ship will be destroyed. Last night, an angel of the Lord to whom I belong and whom I serve stood beside me and said, do not be afraid, Paul. You must stand trial before Caesar, and God has graciously given you the lives of all who sail with you. So keep up your courage, men, for I have faith in God that it will happen just as he told me. Nevertheless, we must run aground on some island. So Paul tells them not to travel, not to go to Rome, but Paul goes with them anyway. And during this time, they encounter a storm. So they're throwing things off the boat, trying to make the boat not as heavy, so they can sort of get through the journey. And I love it because Paul seems so calm in the whole situation, and it's a bit like in the Gospels when the disciples are in a storm and Jesus is sleeping, and he sort of just wakes up and calms the storm. I feel it's a lot like that, where Paul just stands up and has a confidence in God that things are going to be okay, and the fact that an angel of God met him and told him that things were going to be okay. And they were in a bad storm. They were in a tough storm. They thought they were going to lose their lives. They hadn't eaten. They had thrown all the food off board. They had thrown the lifeboats off board to try and stay afloat. But Paul stayed calm. Paul stayed confident. And I don't know if I would have the same confidence as Paul to do that. But what a great story that is for us in a time like this right now that we are in. Are we going to be like the sailors, or are we going to be like Paul, telling people that it's going to be okay, that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, that there's more to life than this? Or are we going to be like the sailors, scared, worried, anxious, Now, we all will experience that during this time for sure. But let's try not to live in that, but let's try to live positively, knowing that God has a plan, knowing that God has a purpose, and have confidence in God that He will get us through this, just like Paul. But I also want to share to get people around you, get people in your life like Paul, someone encouraging you and egging you on, even when, the people tell you to not do something. For instance, Paul telling the people not to go, yet they still did. Paul showed grace and he showed mercy on them and still helped them and still encouraged them to be calm and to be safe in a storm. So yeah, that's my thought around that. They were in a storm and Paul still kept this confidence in God even though the people had lost it. So be a Paul, but also get people around you like Paul to help you through this time. I know that God's got a plan, God's got a purpose for this, and yeah, stay close to Him, just like Paul. I want to pick one thing up before I finish as well. If you've been looking at my daily thoughts over the last few weeks, you would have seen that I think for 3 weeks I read the book of Acts. Paul was either in prison or he was standing charge for something. And then at the last part in these last few verses, it says that the angel of the Lord appeared and said to Paul, "You must stand trial before Caesar, and God has graciously given you the lives of all who sail with you." Paul had stood trial many times, at least three. I've read at least three, but God was asking him to do it again. And Paul continued to trust God, continued to trust his plans, continued to trust his ways. And I pray that we will do that as well, that we will trust God, that we will know that He has a plan, that He has a purpose for your life, that He has a purpose for right now. Be a Paul, show light in darkness, but also get people around you like Paul that can help encourage you and strengthen you and help you during this time. So that's my thought for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed. It's great to be able to do this, and hopefully we'll see you all soon. Have a great day.